to heal,
To heal.
you need to get outside of yourself.
Hmm. 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 Interesting.
Because otherwise, the mind is going to be an obstacle to healing.
Yeah.
You got to get beyond that mind and get into your intuitive mind.
Right. It's like, because I was thinking a lot about homeostasis this week, the last couple weeks, because homeostasis isn't necessarily a positive thing. Homeostasis is just the sort of equilibrium of wherever you are. You could be in a very unhealed state, but be in a homeostasis in that, within that container.
Exactly. Wait
So,
a second. We have a guest speaker here.
oh,
More like a listener.
after all of the difficulties and challenges and hiccups, here we all are. Yay.
Of course, there's nobody else listening, but it's
They could, they
and
could, they could, the
I
invitation's
forwarded
there.
I forwarded that out.
So hiccups along the way, but overall, I'm gonna call this a success because we're here and we're talking and we can hear each other. So that's a great start.
Yes, it is.
Um, so thank you both for taking time out on a Sunday. I'm recording our conversation, so any gems that pop out, I can pull those out and we can share them with the people that weren't able to come today, and we'll make it work with what we have until we find a better solution.
Very good.
Good. Yeah, I'm good with whatever you just said.
So, so we're just taking a little time. I know we're almost full actually for the event next Sunday, which is very exciting. I think we're at 11 now.
That's good.
And I was
Yeah.
probably expanding the limit of 15 a little bit if somebody really wanted to go.
Yeah, so we got technically 4 seats now, and maybe just a couple more. But spending a few moments today just to connect and sort of talk about the intention for next Sunday and some things that are sort of floating in the ether that we're capturing, which is this so important need now for people to be able to come to the table for themselves and embrace the unknown and the challenge and the risk of turning up for themselves in a full way, which allows us to be there for others in a more full way, which is something that is so needed in our culture right now. um, so I'd love to hear you guys speak a little bit about that and anything else that comes to mind, and um, maybe share the experience of how it is to work together on this very important topic.
Oh, since Siri Bahadur and I, love each other and known each other for, I think it's like 40 years in this lifetime. We've known each other for, various lifetimes. It's a very easy flow between he and I about just working together and sharing. So I appreciate that. At this stage of my life, I'm really looking for people to work with of ease of compatibility.
Right. Yeah. Likewise. There are, to this point, and it may expand as we go along. To this point, it's a it's a small set of people that I feel that comfortable with, um, and definitely, um, our relationship and sharing. You know, we we have a lot of similarities. We have different things that we each bring into the mix of um, any given undertaking, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it valuable. Is like we're not parroting what each other says, but we agree with what each other is thinking, presenting, and the experience that comes out of that interplay. And that's what I find a lot of value in how that affects the groups that attend. And now it seems like that one cluster, comes, and then the next month another cluster comes. This month another cluster comes. Eventually, they'll cross pollinate, and then we'll have an expansion of of the community that actually know one another, trust one another, and are able to share in that mutual momentum to actually affect the change that I that I'm looking to see flourish. And I would say we are looking to flourish, but I don't want to speak for everybody, that, and that's that dovetails into that whole thing of, you are, you're the boss of your environment. Your individual contribution in any moment, if it's coming from you, it has significant value. If it's coming from someone else's effect upon you, then that's open to interpretation and subject to change. So the whole thing, the theme, the continuing theme of finding various ways to look at opening the heart, opening up the expression of the soul through the heart as it filters through all the levels of frequency that are part of our environment, is so important. That the direction comes from within, the power comes from within, and the connection of one soul to any and all other souls and hearts is what draws us together and gives us power as a people.
All right, so I'm gonna speak practically, and I agree. All the three topics that we've had: healing our unhealed places, choosing authenticity, and this last topic of opening the heart. Yes, it all is the commonality of opening the heart, but there's another commonality here, and I'm talking personally. So to open the heart takes courage, because basically you're risking, all of the emotion that we've tamped, behind, whether it's body armor or walls. And then it's like, what's the trigger to actually get the courage to start the process of opening your heart? And I'm telling you, I did not have that courage until 2010, when the universe took a baseball bat and put my face down in the mud and said, I'm not letting you up until you make a choice here. And here's the choice. Usually you get the courage from these, heavy duty intensive events where, it just pauses you. And I had some big pauses. And then there's another factor, it's really that it's you need the inner strength to get the courage, but you also need this willingness. And to me, at least in my experience, the willingness comes from getting down to the bottom of the pit. So it's how should I say? It's not a given, because you get to that point at the bottom of the pit. Here's the depth of the willingness. You get to that fork in the road, and the fork has two signs. One is the road of bitter. The other one is the pathway of better. It's pretty darn easy to choose bitter, because you can just wallow. You don't have to do anything. It's already laid out there. Just wallow. Just join the flow of bitterness. But for better, it takes one heck of a lot of courage, inner strength, inner work, patience, time. It's, it's like the caterpillar and the butterfly. To reinvent yourself, that's one heck of a lot of work. And, there needs to be a willingness. Look, you can have a 40% willingness or a 70% willingness, but you know what? The deeper the pit, the higher percentage of, if you choose better, the higher the percentage that you're going to be all in, and that's a bit scary. And Siri Bahadur is now off camera.
He he went he went ghost mode.
Yeah.
I wanted to say
Okay, I'm back.
I wanted to say like what you're saying makes so much sense and resonates at such a true level, but I wanted to just say like that bitter part. It's like that's the operating system generally, and that's part of the reason why it's so easy, because that the better part is the climbing the mountain constantly, rising out of the situation and putting those bricks and moving that next piece of rock and, climb. And the bitter is like the path of least resistance.
Well, here's the phrase: bitter is the mind's default system. That's bitter.
Yeah, and that's the limbic brain, right? Like the limbic brain is going to take over and start telling us exactly how to
Well,
feel.
right, because the limbic brain has all these, these memories, and all the memories are emotional and they're wired chemically. And it's like your mind is saying, "Do you really want to open all of that stuff? That's really beyond the capacity to deal with." And you actually want to open the possibility of rejection, shame, and all these other things. If you really just open yourself up, it's a huge gamble. And then you start having to, if you're versed enough, it's a risk reward situation. If you can lay out the rewards versus the extreme risk of that emotional exposure, it helps to make that better choice.
Yeah, but yes, I agree. But uh, I would add to that bitter, the being the path of least resistance. It's also the heaviest path. By doing nothing, you agree to carry all your garbage with you, right? And so it's like how much do you want to carry? And um, and laying the responsibility of what you'll take and what you won't take on your past experience and what others think about you is like a really heavy load to carry, and it has uh, no return on the investment, or at least
Right,
no long term return on the investment of your energy,
right.
your
But I
life
about how
force.
to put yourself in somebody else's shoes who does not have the nervous system, glandular system doesn't work. They're putting all kinds of, unhealthy substances into their body. They're leading a lifestyle that is definitely doesn't have a lot of nice habit patterns. You add that up, and intellectually, you can say whatever you want to say, but they're feeling like they got 10 abscess teeth, and there is no help in the universe. That's
Hmm.
why even one deep breath. I mean, who knows? One deep breath to somebody who comes our way could change somebody's existence. You don't know. But
Right.
don't underrate the the weaknesses of somebody's nervous system and the glandular irregularities and the lifestyle. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff to overcome.
Yeah.
And really, for me, they're but for the grace of God.
Yes. Agreed.
So, yeah, yeah. But obviously, more and more on the positive side of this, or on the whatever side you want to look at it, there are more and more people who are choosing the pathway of healing and recognizing that is why we are back on the planet.
And Siri and I talk about this a lot. It's so important for those of us who have any sort of inkling in this direction that we do clean our field, do the work, and then be that point of light for people. Because you never know when that next deep breath or that next positive affirmation or that next, hey, like, are you okay? Like being able to check in with somebody and hold space for them, even if it's just in the line at the gas station, to get to show that person that little glimmer of light that might lift them out of that bitterness and that drudgery.
Correct. Correct. And again, I'm going to just speak about me and the topic here, and I think we'll probably touch on this topic in the workshop, is the fine art of spiritual bypassing. And I was a master at that up until 2010. The definition of that is, and I've read the book by August Augustus Masters, a PhD therapist who wrote the book in 2010. Here's the definition of spiritual bypass: a belief or practice that avoids at all costs dealing with our painful emotions, unhealed wounds, and taking on any of the developmental skills to deal with the first two things. And I did it. I mean, my spiritual bypassing and my numbing was kind of healthy numbing, but it was still numbing with lots of yoga stuff, lots of work for the community stuff, 13 marathons, 13 half marathons, martial art. I was a very healthy person, but I was also continuing to keep my body armor on, because not only was somebody, I just wasn't going to let anybody in, even though I was really healthy. So even though if you're on that quote unquote spiritual path, there's many people, and I was one of them, who fully participates in spiritual bypassing.
Well, it becomes like another layer of armor, right? It's like your health and your bubble of protection or whatever, it becomes so.
Listen, my self-worth until 2010 was the level of my service to others. But I was doing a disservice to myself because I didn't barely touch my inner, even though I was a very physical, healthy person. Well, I left both of you speechless.
It's so because I know so many people who, and I'm guilty of that too at times.
Wait. I want to stop you right there. Well, nobody's guilty.
Right.
You know what? It just, we listen. It just is, because here's the thing. We're growing up. We're 1 year old, 3 years old, we're 6 years old. We have no freaking control over what's coming at us, let alone any kind of skill set to deal with it. So we're just like inundated with this stuff. So nobody's guilty. Nobody's making mistakes, but everybody is exhibiting behavior based on their vulnerabilities that they tuck deep inside. Because what else are we going to do? Because a lot of the times, if you start throwing that out, what we were trained to be is suck it up, don't talk about it. Real people, I'm being gender neutral now. It's like, it used to be, real men don't cry, but there was that baseball movie,
Yeah.
big girls don't cry.
There's
Big
no
boys
crying in
don't cry.
baseball.
Yeah. Well, there was no crying in life,
Yes.
but we're at a position now. Well, yeah, like, yeah, you want to cry, you want to emote, but nobody, literally, unless there is abuse going on, we're not guilty of anything, but it's just what we have gone through. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And also, yes, those words like should, like I should have been or I could have been or whatever. It's like, what do you?
Let me say that what has happened to us up to this very moment has made us who we are. And look no further than our life story, and that is our unfinished business. and our unfinished business is our karma.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
But it takes, I go back to my original statement here, it takes so much courage to look so intently, deeply into our life story. It's like, oh my goodness. And how do you deal with that stuff? And that's a whole nother chapter on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, while you were talking, I was thinking about how, what is that function for the psyche? And it's like, that narrative, those narratives that we create around those positive things that we're doing, or the things that we perceive as positive, like those narratives become those like veils and those armors that we're layering onto ourselves. And like, this is my identity now. And like, oh, now I'm a yogi. And like, oh, now I'm a spiritual person. And oh, and it's like we're trying to put on these robes, when in reality, like the true awakening process is this disrobing all the way down to the, you know, ineffable
Mm-hmm.
center.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh yeah, disrobing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, getting naked in front of 100,000 people or something. At some point, you just got to say, okay, here I am,
Yeah, yeah.
and here I am. Take me or leave me.
Yes.
How's that?
I like that.
I think one of the other things that we talk about a lot in yoga is the idea of frequency, and for me, like I'm a fairly sensitive person and always have been, and I think, you know, we have the various frequencies of source, like the nod and all of the layers of divine communication that are flowing through, and then you've got other people that are sending positive intentions, or your spiritual posse or whatever it is, and our it's like these waves that are like constantly flowing through everything. And when it comes to the heart, when we're armored and closed in our heart space, we're not able to perceive cleanly that frequency as it's coming in, and we're also not able to fully express our true frequency because it's like hitting all these walls and filters through the vibrational field, right? Which is the cross, which is you know that's the real cross, right? The plane of here, and then the plane of the connection to source up and down, and that's like where the heart is. And we're um I laugh sometimes about like the green frequency, because right now it's like, you know, legalization of marijuana and like green culture and green, green, green. And it's like, well, green is the color of the heart. And that's really where like we need to be opening up and learning and um, cleaning house, I guess, is sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back to one of the beginning of that, what you just said. So here's the thing, in my humble opinion, every human on the planet in this really period of dramatic change, and yeah, it's a healing vortex also, but every human being on the planet is super ultra sensitive.
Yes,
Period. Everybody.
everyone.
You look. I just pick. Everybody just picks up different sensitivities from other people. Again, depending upon how much body armor they got on, how much walls they've got built up. But everybody is so sensitive. Period.
It's like a big lie, right? Empaths and da da da. It's like, who's the empath and who's the da da da. Like we're we're all receiving and transmitting, right? We're all involved in the conversation. It's just to what degree of conscious involvement are we participating in?
Correct. Correct. And here's the thing. Look, this is from Brene Brown, and I'm a big fan of hers, and I believe this. We all have pain. Everybody's got pain. But in the yoga world, this term shunya has been misperceived to where, oh, you're gonna flatline yourself that you don't feel pain. That is never gonna happen. The pain of those events that we have had serve as drivers to our highest values and virtues, superpowers, whatever. I'll give you, just for me, for example, here's my two superpowers. Well, I have a lot of superpowers, but here's the big two: kindness and resilience. I wouldn't have those two superpowers unless from my early childhood, etc., I didn't have these huge experiences of just rejection. And everybody takes this early childhood stuff. Everybody's got superpowers if they can just pause themselves. And that's the big thing. And whether it's, look, yoga to me is just a subset of a spiritual practice. You can walk in the woods. You can go swimming, but all of these things have a commonality, and that is changing your breath from automatic to conscious breathing. Mm-hmm. And then that pauses us. We've changed our breath. I don't care what the practice is. Change your breath, and how we see and perceive the world is an inner job. And the inner is based upon our breath, and our breath will dictate the glands, the nerves, our metabolism, yada, 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 yada. Hmm. And again, there, but for the grace of God, I would be sitting on that street corner or not even alive today. It's just by the grace of God. Something happened. But it's today, if you can get somebody to pause their breath. So you talked about somebody, like needing help at the gas station, right? So I was in a Randall supermarket here in Austin about 8 years ago. So there was a person between me and the checkout person. And this woman who's the cashier, she leans over the person in front of her and she points her finger at me and says, "You," at the top of her lungs. I went, okay. She said, "When you get in front of me, I need you to give me hope." I had about 12 seconds before she was done with the one in front of me. I got up to her. I could have said anything to her, but I said how I said it, my cadence, so that it paused her, and I could see her take a deep breath. And I said, just breathe. But she was smiling by the time I left. Again, you just need to take a pause. And all of a sudden, physiologically, things happen and get different perceptions. And here.
Yeah, I would like to return to shunya for just a moment, and just kind of clarify that the shunya is a tool. Getting to shunya is just getting to shunya, just like having a socket wrench is just a socket wrench. It's just sitting on the tool bench, and it's basically useless unless you have a need for it, unless it can unscrew the valve cover of your automobile so you could get in and make an adjustment. Shunya is the same way. It's just like useless until you can introduce your pain, your limitation, this or that, or whatever your experience is, to go in there and actually have it work. It's like a clean set of tools is just a clean set of tools. It takes getting it into a dirty compartment, whether it's your bathroom or your car, and just getting it dirty and using it, and then what its true worth is. So that's my response to the shunya thing.
But I like that response because we can use each other during the workshop, and I can start ranting and raving about Shunya, and then you can, because a lot of people think Shunya is the be all end all, just like they think yoga is the be all end all. It's a yoga practice. So anyhow, thanks for the clarification. I think that is well worth laying out there at the workshop.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a big debate about enlightenment and the use of the word enlightenment, especially in our as we've moved into the modern era where spirituality and religion and yoga and these things are more pervasive in the culture. And there's this big argument about enlightenment, like what is the point of trying to achieve enlightenment? And I can't remember who it was who said that. It was basically saying the same thing. Like enlightenment's not getting to the end of the story and then boom, the story is over. Enlightenment is coming to a realization and then going back into the mud pit and going, okay, now I have to hold this realization and still be in the world of things, somehow using this tool in whatever capacity presents itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're not,
Yep.
it's not, I think in the short
Hmm.
term, it can provide the relief of the escapism that people seek to
Yeah.
to escape pain and their discomfort of living in what is the saying? People don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes so great that they're forced to change. You know, it's
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
Hmm.
that running from pain thing. It's like I think yoga and shunya and the practice it does provide relief, and I think that's an important component. But ultimately, once you've had that piece of rest, then you see, oh, this is just a plateau, and here's more things to break my fingernails on climbing up the.
Yeah. Well, look, there are misconceptions out there. Look, generally, Buddhist philosophy, and I've delved into a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, but a lot of Buddhist philosophy is almost at all costs, calm yourself down and don't express anger.
Hmm. Hmm.
Brene Brown is express it all, get it out to a good listener, because otherwise you're just keeping it all inside.
Yeah.
But just to keep tamping it down, so you can show your flat lines.
Yeah.
That's a just say this politely. That's just a misperception.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like my best self is a very thin crust,
Hey,
like the creme brulee crust, one little crack and all the.
I flatlined myself for 39 years.
Hmm.
All right. Well, so yeah, so these will be good topics. And one thing I really like, I mean, Thich Nhat Hanh he talks about this. There are three preconditions to healing, and we've kind of talked about this, so far. But it's stopping, calming, and resting.
Mm. Hmm.
I mean, stopping the busyness of the mind,
Yeah.
so you can calm it down. And then the resting part is, and that will give you a calmer heart.
Yeah, I think people conflate calming and resting too.
Yeah,
I know I do, because they're not the same thing. Like you need that, the body will have to rest in any cycle that you're going through of healing and processing. It's like the body needs that time to rest as a somatic integration of like all the trauma and things that you're like pulling back to the surface.
right. And that is why what is, like sound baths, gong workshops. I mean, all that kind of singing bowls, Gregorian chants, all of that. Just, you don't have to do anything. You're just resting and let those waves wash over you. It's very, very popular and getting more popular because it is one of those preconditions for healing.
Hmm. I haven't asked in these last three sessions. You're doing sound bath at the end of the workshops?
Well, Siri Bahadur and I talked about this a little bit. yes, we do a gong thing. We both play the gong for about 30 minutes or so. But the next session that we're going to have at the end of September, really, I don't know how big we want to say this in the title or whatever, but we're going to do a sound, sound healing session
Mm-hmm.
where it's going to be at least an hour, a part of that next session at the end of September.
That's exciting. I hope my schedule is open on that day so I can attend because I haven't yet made it to one, and
The date will definitely be open. It's September 33rd. Just like in Harry Potter, you go with 9.5. All be
I'm
there.
putting it on my calendar now. Sound bath healing immersion.
Right. You know that phrase, right? Well, read in between the lines. Well, just go to a date that's completely open.
I love it. I love it. Wonderful. So next Sunday, it starts at 1 p.m. The workshop to open the heart, um, embracing your emotional vulnerability to have deeper relationships with others. And we didn't really touch too much on the relational aspect of that. So people who are interested, it's an experiential event. It's an opportunity to encounter yourself deeply. And when we encounter ourselves deeply, then we're able to hold space for others to encounter them more deeply and more truly as they are, which is such a beautiful thing and such a gift of yoga that, is becoming more and more in the forefront of people's understanding about what yoga is and does, beyond just the physical benefits. So the workshop is $99. You can Venmo either Gurudhan or Siri. You can reach out to us. The email is siribahadurg@gmail.com. You can also message any of us directly, and we can help facilitate to get you enrolled. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
all right.
Good.
Excellent. Well, thanks again so much. Thanks for playing. Thanks for your patience through all of the technical wanderings and testing and all of that. I'm glad we found something that at least worked so we could all three talk. That's a huge,
Yeah.
wonderful first step. So,
Yeah.
Good.
Happy
Good.
Sunday, and thanks to you both. Such a
Thank
pleasure
you, Kate.
to work with you. And I won't be there next Sunday, but to everyone who's participating, have a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks, Gurudhan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening.
Take care,
All
y'all.
righty.
Bye.